Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Goodman, Director of Marketing and Development for the YMCA of Northwest Louisiana, and we're here at 318 Latino Studios for Shreveport-Bossier, my city, my community, my home. And I can't wait to have today's discussion. I'm actually meeting her for the first time today. Our guest is Morgan Walker. Morgan, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. Well, we're going to dive into all things in your world, I hope. And if I get anything incorrect, please correct me. But in the spring of last year, you came to us from Paducah, Kentucky, to take the reins as the executive director of the Shreveport Symphony Orchestra.
That's correct.
Since 1948, Shreveport has been blessed to have a symphony. In fact, it's the oldest continuously operating symphony in Louisiana.
Yes, that is true.
So we're going to cover all kinds of aspects of the Shreveport Symphony today, but let's start here. I know you do a lot of work with and in the schools. So that was new to me, but let's start. Could you just tell me some about that work?
Sure, yeah. We have some of our musicians they choose to be on a contract, which allows us to send them into the schools throughout the year. And we set up mostly for early education ensembles and small groups of musicians to head into the schools. And some of these programs combine music and literacy. Some of them are just straight up music. The musicians have a chance to interact with the kids, and it's just the best. It's one of the most fun, heartwarming things to watch.
And we're talking every grade?
I think we usually stop in the upper elementary grades. I don't think we do a lot of programs in middle and high schools, which, we certainly could do. But hitting the kids at that early age where they're super impressionable and can really benefit from developing an interest in music is kind of where we put our focus.
Yeah, I love it. Wish I had. I can't even remember. I mean, I grew up here. I can't remember if I had that or not.
Yeah, well, I hope you did.
Yeah. The more I do this work, the more I realize that just exposure in all forms is just so key in life. Like, you can expose someone to something for 1 hour and it can change their life.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, a single concert can change somebody's life. Exactly.
All right, so I want to get in a little bit into your vision and some of your current initiatives as someone who's fairly newly arrived. Mm-hmm. So first, just tell me about some of the things that will continue or stay the same with you at the helm.
Well, the quality of the music will stay the same or improve. I can promise you that. It was already exceptional when I got here, and that was really one of the things that drew me to this role. I could tell that the long history and the artistic leadership would make for a really great ensemble. And when I got here and heard the orchestra, it sealed the deal. Shreveport Symphony Orchestra punches well above its weight. Our musicians are highly qualified. They've gone to some of the best conservatories in the country. And we're really, really lucky to have them here several times a year.
And on the flip side of that, tell me about some of the things that will be different or that are priorities for you to add or change.
Yeah. So, we for many years have placed the focus on our bread and butter, the classical programming. And that's really important to me and dear to my heart, and I'm a classical music fan, so that stays. But I do think it's important that we branch out and offer things that folks who think they don't like classical music can connect with. Although I would argue that if they spent some time with us, they would become classical music fans, but we've got to get them in the door first. So like what we are about to do, a collaboration with a local band known as the Holodecks.
So this will air, what we're doing today will air a week from today, but what Morgan's referring to will happen tomorrow. So by the time this airs, it will happen
already
6 days before. But go ahead.
Hopefully,
please.
No disasters between now and then. And
there won't be.
It carries on as planned. But we've collaborated with a local 90s rock band to present a fusion concert with some of the best 90s rock and alternative music with a symphonic backdrop, which is really cool and different. And I've already seen that we're going to be bringing in folks that we don't normally see with that. And so my goal is to do some more of those things and to do some programs like we have just started to do craft music with Great Raft Brewing. We've been sending some small ensembles out there to just place classical music where you might not always expect it to be. Because I genuinely believe that if you spend some time with it, you can't help but love it. So,
I love that. Talk to me about what are the symphony's greatest challenges today, and for those in our community listening, how can they best help you achieve your mission?
Ooh, that's a big question. Do you want to talk about the Shreveport Symphony's specific problems, or do you want to talk about problems facing our art form?
Let's talk about both.
Okay. Some of those are obviously shared by us and the orchestra world at large, but I would say the specific problem that we have here in Shreveport is our audience development. We're not getting enough people in the door. And I am spending a lot of time trying to figure out why that is. Because
Let me stop you one sec. So your concerts are at Riverview.
They are.
And Riverview holds or seats how many approximately, do you know?
A little over 1,300.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so continue. I just want to give people, I want people to start to kind of visualize as you're talking.
Yeah, and the average classical concert, I mean, some would argue that we have really good attendance because we pull in 800 or 900 folks, which is good. But I would love to see the house full.
Sure.
In each of those. And Shreveport certainly has the population to sustain that.
Let me stop you one more time because I'm just thinking as you're talking.
Yeah.
So what's the closest symphony to Shreveport other than Shreveport? And I'm asking that just as I look at other industries.
Yep.
My father was in the health industry, and just seeing how many people would come from 30, 45, even maybe 90 miles away because this was the best option in close vicinity.
Yeah, I mean, actually this region is pretty lucky to have several regional orchestras. Texarkana is just up the road, has their own lovely symphony orchestra. So we don't have as much of a regional audience as we might otherwise have, but I really think that's okay because Shreveport-Bossier alone has enough people to allow us to fill our hall every time, but it's just not quite happening. I think Yeah. I think there's a variety of factors. I do think our attendance was better pre-COVID, and that is true across the board. That's true across the country. People got more comfortable staying home, and the entertainment options at home are better than they've ever been. I don't blame people for wanting to stay on the couch, but if we can just get folks back out to experience live music, I think they'll remember how much they missed it and how different it is than just listening to your stereo. That's a really old term. Feels old.
There's nothing at home that can properly serve as a substitute.
It doesn't exist. Yeah. To share in the experience of live music with other humans all around you, which I know for a long time we weren't supposed to be doing, but now we can, and it's unlike anything else. And it's why I do what I do for a living. I mean, I'm one of those people that went to one concert and it changed my life. So.
All right. I warned you, we're going to cover other things, but I warned you this question is going to be up there with maybe the longest question I've ever asked, so just hang tight with me. But,
I can't wait.
I once heard your great music director, Michael Butterman, say the following, and the quote is as follows. We are all being rewired through our connectivity, through our devices and so on. We're looking for the next ding, the next little stimulation. The idea of being multitasking and scattered is something that's just kind of creeping into our very way of being. So that's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. What I mean by that is that more than ever, I think people are looking for chances to kind of unplug, to transcend that kind of frantic pace. They might find it through prayer. They might find it through meditation. I suggest you can also find it through really losing yourself in great music like we play. So now to my question. My question is, you and I are a bit in a similar business. We're both selling quality of life enhancements to the community. And so what I really want to get into is, how do you sell that to people when it's not necessarily easy to quantify or demonstrate an ROI for?
Yeah, that is one of the longest questions I've ever been asked, and also one of the most difficult. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I think Michael is right. It is meditative in a way. And I don't love when people describe classical music as relaxing, because I think that sort of makes you think that it'll help you fall asleep or something, which it certainly doesn't do most of the time unless it's something really serene. But it does allow you to put everything down, to stop thinking about your to-do list, in the same way that like yoga or a workout or, meditation does. And I genuinely believe it improves your life. I think it probably also improves your health. I can't speak to that, but I think it's improved mine. I mean, that's how I unplug. I sit and I listen to music, and I go and I hear live music in a setting where I'm not working. How do you sell it?
And I ask because, I hear all the time, who said, I was moderating a panel on Tuesday, and Wendell Riley from the Film Center was on it. And you hear this all the time. People are talking about how lucky this community is to have a symphony, to have an opera, to have a ballet,
art house cinema.
To have an art house cinema. And we are. And yet that's not necessarily to just go sit in front of a foundation or a donor and say, don't you realize how lucky we are?
It's not enough.
Well, it should be, but I'm just saying.
It should be.
Yeah. And I'm just curious, like, how you think about that, or how you articulate that, or how you approach that.
Well, I have been known to approach it as, aren't we lucky, and what if we're gone tomorrow? Which, please understand, I'm not saying the Shreveport Symphony is going to vanish tomorrow. We're good. However, if we allow the sort of apathy around attending or supporting arts organizations to continue, we all will be in real jeopardy. And I think even though people may not notice how lucky they are to have it in their everyday life right now, they sure would notice if it were to all disappear. And I don't think any of us wants that. And it sounds like a threat in a way, but it's not. It's just a shift in the way we think about it, because we think it's impossible to lose all of these things, but it's not. It's entirely possible if we don't continue to support these programs and these organizations. I'm
going to ask you the question in a slightly different way. Just, I don't know, maybe get a slightly different response. A lot of times when I'm talking about the why, I try and sell it as, what would this community look like without the why?
Yeah.
And so, what would Shreveport-Bossier miss if the symphony were no longer here?
That's a good question, and I have lots of answers. So you wouldn't just miss our 9-10 concerts a year that you have the opportunity to come and see, or the small chamber concerts that we put on 5 to 8 times a year. You would also miss the opera. You would also miss the ballet. You would also miss your church musicians. You would miss the musicians you can hire if you're hosting something in your home or having a wedding. You would miss the candlelight concerts that have invaded Shreveport. All of those things without the foundation of the Shreveport Symphony here. Those musicians don't exist in this town to do those things. So what our musicians do spreads way beyond just the Shreveport Symphony Orchestra. They're involved in so many things, and they're really part of the fabric of this community. And all those things suddenly vanish, or they have to be imported from other communities. And I don't think any of us wants that,
I love that. Well, those are my set questions for you. We can get, I I know you're doing wonderful things, and you guys are, like you just said, I mean, you're affecting so many different facets and aspects of the community. Is there anything else? Well, actually, let me ask you this. So for someone who, because one thing about classical music, I'm a film geek and a cinephile, and so I think, you know, some people look at international movies or subtitled films or silent films maybe through a lens that's similar to how they look at classical music.
I think that's probably true, yeah.
It's from a different era, or it's just different period, or it's intimidating if someone hasn't held your hand and walked you into it or exposed you to it for the first time. So what's a good way to sort of take that first step into building a relationship that's comfortable and less intimidating with classical music? I
think what I said earlier about our audience problems, I do think they're partly our fault. I think we as orchestras, and I'm just not just talking about the Shreveport Symphony Orchestra, I'm talking about nationwide, could have always and can still do better in making people feel welcome in our spaces. What we do, what our musicians do, is inherently at a high level. You can't perform this music unless you are highly educated and highly trained. And I think that attitude has spilled out into everything in the way we represent ourselves. And it is true that it is the highest level of musical performance you're going to experience. That's kind of our thing. But it is untrue that you can't enjoy it if you don't have that basis of education. Anybody can enjoy classical music. And I think we've done a poor job making that clear to everyone. And I'm trying to figure out what the right messaging is. But if
I almost think it's like, as you're talking, I'm kind of seeing like gastro pub versus white tablecloth restaurant.
Exactly.
You go into a very comfortable
boxed wine versus, something you pull out of the cellar at the store. I mean, it's all of these things are good. The wine out of the box is really good too. The gastropub is great, as is the fine dining restaurant. The Holodecks at Fatty Arbuckle's is great, and so is the symphony. And we're merging the two now, which is great. You don't have to be educated when you walk in the door. You walk in the door because you're curious. And that's what we want. We just want curious people. You don't have to know anything. You don't have to know how this works. You don't have to know when you're supposed to clap. You don't have to know how to read a program. We just want you to come and be curious and enjoy.
All right, I'm putting you on the spot. Well, I have been for the last however long we've been talking, but give people a little primer for people at home who really don't know anything about classical music. Give me maybe 3 to 5 recommendations of 1 to 3 minutes of classical music you should listen to, just to sort of whet your appetite. Or
okay, this might require some editing because I need to think this through a little bit. So hopefully I give you enough time to ask that question so that we can cut in my answers. I'm trying not to get too fancy. Okay. Start with what you will immediately recognize because it sets the tone. It makes you comfortable. So start with Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Even if you don't think you've heard it, you've heard it. You probably already think you've heard it because everybody even knows it by name, which is kind of remarkable if you think about it. Like most people don't remember a numbered symphony. Like that's kind of an abstract concept. There are hundreds of numbered symphonies, but people don't think about them that way. But Beethoven's Fifth is the one that broke through. Like that's the one that everybody remembers. So seek that out. I would also seek out a concerto because I think that freaks people out. Like people who have no idea about classical music at all, they see the word concerto and they're like, what is that? Why is it pronounced that way? And I don't know what this means. And why is there a soloist? So go listen to I don't know, Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto. It's gorgeous. You can't not like it. And while you're at it, go listen to Sibelius's Violin Concerto. Then go listen to my favorite big, splashy, crazy symphony. It's really long. You don't have to listen to the whole thing, but I highly recommend that you do. It's Mahler's Second Symphony, Mahler. It's the Resurrection Symphony. It's heavenly. I think it's probably the most beautiful piece of music that exists, in my opinion. I'm trying to think if I should. I don't want to overwhelm.
And with Spotify nowadays, I mean, people can just, in the comfort of their own home or car,
you can pull up anything.
Just dial it up.
Spotify. I'm one of the weird Apple Music holdouts. And they have like a whole new Apple Music Classical thing, which I'm loving. But you can access all the classical music through the regular Apple Music and Spotify as well.
Well, Morgan, anything else? I love that you're in town. I know that the future is super bright for the Shreveport Symphony.
I think it is, yeah.
I know it is. And anything else that I missed or that you'd like to tell people about? You don't have to by any stretch.
I mean, there are so many things we could talk about. We just announced our season, our upcoming season, the 25-26.
Typically, if I'm not mistaken, so your season kind of mirrors an academic year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It starts in, so 24.
Starts in the fall and goes through the spring.
25, 26 will start in fall of 25.
Yeah. So we're starting in October. It's a really good mix of like sort of blockbuster classical stuff and some pops, some New Orleans style jazz mixed in there. Leslie Odom Jr., big Broadway star, is joining us at the holidays, which is really exciting.
And you can subscribe for the entire season, or you can just come as you're available and or interested, or both.
Yes, exactly. Subscribing is a really good deal. I would highly recommend doing that. But right now we are doing our renewing subscriber presale. So stay on the lookout over the summer. You'll see new subscriptions go on sale and single tickets, of course, if you just want to try us out for a concert or two.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
All right, Morgan. Well, thanks so much for being here. Ellen and I are definitely coming soon. We were talking about before you got here. And I believe, I'm going to make a prediction. In less than 24 months, if not earlier, you're going to start seeing sold out crowds at Riverview. Let's speak it into existence. Okay. Let's make it, let's manifest it. All right, here. You know what? I'm gonna be a part of this. I'm not an influencer. I mean, I'm a super mild influencer, but if you're selling yourself a little short. In 18 months you haven't had a sold out concert, I commit right now to you to help you promote one of your shows with the goal of having a sold out show at Riverview. Wow, I like it. Okay, you have a deal. Okay. Thank you. Absolutely. Thanks for being here. Thanks for having me. Absolutely.